I don't have my laptop with this and this separately. Okay, I'm trying very, very hard to see all of the comments and everything all at once. I don't think that YouTube is actually working. So what I'm going to do is go to here and then do that. Yeah, I think that's fine. So, welcome in everybody. We are on the final chapter of Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole, and we are talking about gender performance. So, what is gender performance to you? And how do you perceive gender performance? Because each of us has a different idea of how we perform gender. People mistake me for a woman, but I am woman, but from wish, as I always say, because my gender never arrived. And I joke about it, but I have never been comfortable in my femininity. I have never seen femininity as safe. I have never seen femininity as being or as having a sense of security. And that may have everything to do with trauma and absolutely nothing to do with me. As a human being, it may not be neurological, it may be entirely social. Same Cole, I absolutely love that, because when we look at how our gender is perceived and how we feel in our own bodies, everybody has a different journey to do with their gender and how we express our gender. And through the journey of this book, and this is my first time reading it, and so all of the emotions that you feel, it was brand new for me as well. But we as human beings rise out of our experiences. We rise out of them different every single time. This most recent, really horrible experience that I've had, I don't see myself rising out of it anytime soon, and that's okay. But when I finally do, and I will be a completely different person. I will see myself differently. I will perceive myself differently. And that's the case with every single experience, that every time we go through something, we come out the other end completely altered. Sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better, sometimes it's completely morally neutral. And there's never a case of this is a closed book now. It's just a closed chapter. And in terms of gender performance, thank you. I am willing to play a lot more with my gender performance. I'm willing to have a lot more fun, especially in terms of my sexuality. Hi. Yes, Cole. I have a better sense of how comfortable I am in my own body. And so, yeah, let's get to the conclusion. We are on page 258 of Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole. Final curtain call. In one word, states of character arise out of like activities. This is why the activities we exhibit must be of a certain kind. It is because the states of character correspond to the differences between these. It makes no small difference then whether we form habits of one kind or another from our very youth. It makes a very great difference, or rather, all the difference. And that's by Aristotle. See, dead white guys had some good ideas every now and then. Denouement. It's 327 BC, and I've decided to return to Athens on my now considerably less spindly legs to have another word with Aristotle. I find him sitting at the floor of the Acropolis looking pensive, as befits a great philosopher. He snaps out of his reverie as I approach, and it takes him a moment to recognize me. "Ah, Emma," he says, stroking his luscious beard. "Pray, excuse me, I was just thinking about lunch. It's nice to see you again after all this time. It's been 14 years, has it not? And I must say you look less as though an enthusiastic irritation would blow you away. The childbearing years must have given you strength." "I don't actually have kids yet," I answer. "Women tend to start families later in my time, and anyways, I'm still trying to figure out a familiar and romantic structure in which I may be able to raise gender-liberated children." "Ah, have you read my Politics? I think you'll find it details the best way to structure men's roles, women's roles, and families." "Yes, friend Aristotle, a lot of shit changes in 2 millennia, you know. Your idea that some people are natural slaves? Pretty unfashionable in the future. The Hellenic conception of romantic love and sexual desire? Completely revamped. And in the future, scientific evidence, as opposed to biased male perception, shows women and men to be intellectually equal, and women are fighting to create a world in which their social roles are not dependent on their sexed bodies." Aristotle laughs. "These are very good jokes, Emma," he says, "but enough of the funnies. Why have you traveled once again from the future to speak with me?" I explain. "Aristotle, I've spent the past few years of my life reflecting on why women in my time are locked into gendered ways of behaving. I've spent much of that time trying to act differently and see what I can learn." "Easy," says the lovable sexist sage. "I've already solved this one too. In women, the deliberative capacity lacks force. They are ruled by emotions, and men by reason." "Okay, Archie, let's imagine for a moment. I know it'll be hard, that you are wrong, and that women and men are, in fact, very psychologically similar. Why would women continue to act out gender identities that emphasize their physical difference from men, create the illusion of significant psychological difference, and ultimately disadvantage themselves?" The philosopher ponders, ever willing to partake in a thought experiment, however frivolous. "They must believe at some level that these actions will make them happy." And this I got from an aunt just yesterday on the phone. "When are you having kids?" "I don't want kids." "How will you ever be happy?" "I am happy." "Are you really?" There's obviously truth to this. In the 70s, as I discussed in Chapter 3, Sandra Bem's sex role inventory upended the idea that psychological well-being and social adjustment were related to conformity to the correct characteristic for one sex. Exactly, Hagor. But the legacy of this long-standing belief that the happiest people are girly girls and manly men lives on. If people fail to conform to gender norms, if, for example, women choose not to remove their mustaches or men decide to wear dresses, they tend to be read as weird, mixed up, or even unstable. So there's a degree to which performing your gender according to society's prescriptions protects you from judgment and harm, and you could argue that avoiding this unhappiness constitutes striving for happiness. And there is a creator on here named Seth. I discovered their lives recently, and my goodness, the gender bendy is gorgeous. Absolutely fucking gorgeous. And oh my god, you're here. Hi. That is not awkward at all. So please, do yourself a favor and follow Seth. I love the way you bend expectations of gender. It's one of the most refreshing things I have seen on this app. That yes, JJ. It's so refreshing to see how especially younger men and mask-presenting people are embracing femininity in ways that are empowering, not just to masculinity as a healthy concept, but to ideas of what is feminine and what is weak. And the nun outfit was just perfection. We tend to put weakness on nail polish, on eyeliner, and then decide to call it guy liner. Like, why? What's the purpose there? Is it because eyeliner is too womanly to be seen as suiting men or mask-presenting people? I love that, Jaguar. And when we look at gender bendiness, we have to understand that none of these things are intrinsically masculine. None of these things are intrinsically feminine. Hi. This doesn't tell people anything about my gender. Well, according to me anyways. This says that I am incapable of keeping my nails painted for very long. That's what it says. The shape of my nails? What does it say? Nothing. It says absolutely nothing, except maybe, especially people who are interested in kink, can gather I like to scratch people's back. And I do. Behave. The fact that I can put on a full face of makeup and do the spicy streaming that I do says nothing about my gender, but it says a lot about how comfortable I am in my own sexuality and how I embrace my kinks and how I choose to represent that. Because, hey, spicy streaming is perfect for me because I'm a hypersexual with an exhibitionist kink. What? Makes sense, right? I get paid to orgasm? Yay. But in striving for happiness, we can never do it within the confines of what other people think is normal. And if we're constantly striving for what other people think as normal for ourselves, we're never actually going to be happy. We might be contented in company, but what happens when we're on our own? What happens when we look in the mirror and we think, who am I? What happens when we spend time with ourselves, when we are alone with ourselves, and we ask ourselves, what am I doing to make myself feel fulfilled? Judith Butler told us that gender identity is performative, that it is constructed through a stylized repetition of acts over time. But we don't create our own stylized repetitions from scratch. We inherit a set of norms. Thank you. A script from history and from the culture that surrounds us. Butler notes that people are rewarded in many ways for performing their gender identities, quote-unquote, correctly. If you costume and comport yourself according to society's ideal of femininity, you get benefits. You might be considered more sexually attractive or trustworthy or even lovable. Equally, there are repercussions, even violent ones, to performing your gender incorrectly. Butler talks about the death of Charlie Howard, a teenager beaten up, thrown over a bridge and killed by his classmates because he had an effeminate walk. She asks why a boy with an effeminate walk is capable of creating the kind of anxiety that leads to murder, and says that, in this case, like so many others, we must acknowledge that coercion is a big part of why we conform to gender norms. And is that true happiness? How many of us are at risk of being killed for our gender identity? Hands up in the chat. How many of us are at risk of being killed for our gender identity? Yep. And of course, we live it anyway, because we know the repercussions of performing incorrectly according to our sex assigned at birth, our gender assigned at birth. We know the risks. Why do we do it anyway? Because coercion to conform is never going to be true happiness. But honestly, I have to ask, so as a 4'10" person, what do you see up there? Good night, B. Thank you for hanging around. And good luck with waking up at 6. We know that we will be punished. Oh, absolutely. The air is way better down at 4'10". We know that at any moment we could become the next hashtag. True happiness can never come out of coercion. In an awareness of the system of rewards and punishment, you could say that conforming to gender norms is a way of ensuring greater happiness, but of course, conforming in order to gain advantages or prevent suffering within a system that values women in disempowering ways does nothing to change the system. It's all right. Sure, you gain a certain amount of confidence of performing and domestically inclined, sweet, unconfrontational, conventionally costumed, physically conditioned, ideal happiness, but the kind of happiness resulting from this is not the kind of happiness that might result from a world that valued people in male and female bodies equally. It's not the kind of happiness that might result from being valued in terms of personality, talent, unique beauty, goodness, self. So, Aristotle, I say, I don't think it's enough to argue that women perform like this because it makes them happy. In fact, if the ultimate end is happiness, I think this performance of womanhood stops us from ever attaining it. A little fulfillment we may derive from our conformity puts the great fulfillment we could achieve through our non-conformity forever out of reach. There was a Swedish model, a cishet woman, white woman, who got rape threats for doing I think it was an Adidas or Adidas, I don't know how to say it, campaign with unshaved legs. Not by other women. Women definitely policed her and said, oh, that looks ugly. But of course, the rape threats came from men. The little fulfillment we derive from conformity puts the great fulfillment we could achieve through our non-conformity forever out of reach. Like being hungry on the way to a beautiful banquet and stuffing your face with a bumper bag of stale Doritos you found on the back of the passenger seat. Aristotle doesn't know what Doritos are, but he is quite hungry, and my talk of banquets encourages him to wander off for lunch. Part of the reason that we're locked into disempowering systems of behavior is that we experience our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as choices or agency, even when they are largely products of subtly coercive systems or structure. I've returned to this tension throughout Girls Will Be Girls. However, another reason I think we uphold gender roles is because it's hard to imagine alternatives. Abso-fucking-lutely. To my gender non-conforming people. To my trans baddies and gender non-conforming folk. What did it feel like the first time you put on clothes that fully encompassed who you were as a person outside of gender? Thank you. What did that feel like? Thank you. Confidence, power. I like that. Invincible, love. Liberated. I don't know, for me, because I'm also quite gender bendy, there's not one single type of clothing that makes me feel like this is me, except a salwar. Salwar is the pants and long shirt that comes with the shawl that is worn in the north of India. And it's quite gender neutral, depending on the styling and the patterning. That's my power suit. That is how I feel most beautiful and most handsome and most as you say, Cole, liberated. Because it is an outfit of my culture, my history, my family. It's something that I wear with my shoulders back and feel a little bit taller and walk a little bit more confidently. That outfit that we call a salwar or a Punjabi, depending on where you come from, that combination of clothing is more than 6,000 years old. Yet it's still one of the most elegant. I find it really nice wearing pants as a femme person. You should have seen Geeky's face when I first called them handsome. My goodness, the way their face lit up. When we are, you two, the way we choose to dress ourselves, regardless of how non-conforming it is. And let me tell you, in a Western society, wearing a salwar is non-conforming. Because people ask me all the time whenever I wear salwar, oh, what prayer is it today? What special holy day is it? It's so adorable. They received the pocket watch yesterday. They were almost crying on the phone. I'm so happy. You know they're turning 40 soon, right? We need to get them a 40th birthday gift, like as a group. My grandmother gave me a lot of clothes. Yeah. It's just clothes. It's not gendered. I'm getting lost in thoughts here. And also, one of the pieces of clothing that I feel very empowered in is actually lingerie. I love lingerie. Yeah, clothes have no gender. Abso-fucking-lutely. We are not given alternatives. Leather jackets are a whole ass identity. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes, leather jackets. Jaguar, do you know that in French, the penis is feminine in grammar and the breast is masculine? Repeating behaviors we see around us from the script we've inherited is easy. Writing our own scripts take effort. But also, it's more fulfilling in Aristotle's sense and more fun in Cindy Lauper's. I hope this book has begun to suggest some alternatives that you can play with in ways that feel right for you. Whether it's nurturing the nurturing the next generation of little starlets by providing them with good scripts, props, and of course, an inspirational leading lady, whether it's analyzing the art that surrounds you, becoming aware of how much literature, film, TV, and theater that you consume is about women or by women, working to surround yourself and others with more equal texts, thinking about the structure that it's molded around and how we experience our agency, striving to break down sexist, racist, classist, ableist assumptions that are embedded in all of our psychologies, whether it's wearing a cunning disguise at Halloween or gender bending in life, thus shaking up a symbolic system built on binary gender, whether it's examining your performative gender identity and its relationship with your biological sex, whether it's challenging taboos on the female body or finding revolutionary ways to be beautiful, whether it's hairy armpits or gender-neutral language, hot non-binary sex acts or proud non-binary sexualities, whether it's refusing to play house or agreeing to play an unconventional social role, and even if it's none of these things. I hope you found something here that you can take out into the world and create change that you want to see. Yeah, it got clogged. I believe our performances will have a happy ending, because underlying gender inequality in our society is the erroneous but widely held belief that men and women are more different to each other in abilities, psychological characteristics, and emotion than they are from members of the same sex. This belief is upheld in ways in which we perform our genders, using our bodies and behaviors to destabilize the social constructions of masculinity and femininity that so many of us have accepted as inevitable is a crucial political and ethical gesture. So, this is a question I need to ask of the trans people here. Do you find that you have to be hyper feminine or hyper masculine in order to be perceived correctly as trans? Or do you think that you have room to play with gender expression? People expect androgyny from non-binary folk, and it's annoying. Let's do some makeup for you soon, Cole. Hi, Cereal. If we are acting in ways that deep down we don't believe are right, because this is what we've been conditioned to do, then we're never really going to be fulfilled. The only happiness we'll get is from receiving rewards or avoiding punishments within a system that we actually don't respect. Cole, why melty? You're both beautiful and handsome and amazing and wonderful and all of the things. It's kind of like dating someone you don't like just because they like you. Oh, I hate that. Ew. We need to create a society that respects and values people equally, highlighting the arbitrary cultural divisions between genders in our society. It means giving everyone real freedom to act outside of the gender role deemed appropriate to biological sex. People sometimes do. I have to say, the Emperor of Petty is such a wonderful name here. Oh, it's Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole. We're on the final chapter. Clarissa, my first language is English. It means giving everyone real freedom to act outside the gender role deemed appropriate to their biological sex. And it means that girls can change the world with the ways we choose to be girls. And that is the book. What do you think? To be accepted as one that I rejected the other part of me for such a long time. It really is a good book. Now, it was a short conclusion, more for discussion here than anything. But in realizing that our gender roles and our constructions of how gender is performed, how gender is portrayed, how gender is enforced, there never really is room to play. And so, what are your thoughts? And thank you to everybody on Twitch for being here. I'm going to end it here, and I shall see you all next